Welcome back to the Brighton Chamber Podcast. I'm your host, Cameron Harris, and this week I'm joined by Tina Bruce from the Howell Nature Center. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. So tell me, what is the Howell Nature Center?
So we are a sanctuary for Michigan's wildlife that are non-releasable back out into the wild. We have about 70 permanent ambassador residents on site that the community can come out and visit and learn how to live in harmony with. We also have a rehabilitation clinic where we take in Michigan's wildlife, whether it's an orphaned animal or one that is injured, with the intent to release back into the wild and give them their best chance at life. On top of all of the things that we do for animals, we also do nature education with school groups in the spring and in the fall, as well as summer camps in the summer, and a lot of community programming just to get people out and in tune to nature and everything that Michigan has to offer as far as being outside that electronical realm.
Yeah, kind of unplug.
Absolutely.
So when exactly did the Howell Nature Center start?
So originally, Howell Nature Center began back in 1963. So we're a little over 60 years in the making. It was part of the Presbytery of Detroit, so it was actually owned by the Presbytery of Detroit for many years, and we were spun off as our own 501c3 back in 2017.
So what are some of the ways that you rehab the animals? I know you mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, so right now we're in baby season, so we're getting a lot of orphans, wildlife in right now, so that encompasses so much depending on what stage they are. We just got 2 new incubators, which are extremely beneficial. And that is a huge thank you to the community that stepped up and helped us get those. But a lot of orphaned animals will come in, and the first thing they need is warmth. So that's why those incubators were so important. Fluids, various medication that those animals would need to give them their best chance to be released back out into the wild. So those incubators give them the best chance and help us rehabilitate the animals the best that we can. We also get injured animals in, and once again, we can take up to 130 different species of animals, which is mind-blowing if you think about the number of animals, but all of that knowledge that our staff needs to have to be able to care for those. It's not like going to, a specialty doctor that only concentrates on one thing. Our staff are concentrating on hundreds of species and hundreds of different conditions. But when they come in, we do assess. We always want to make sure that the animals have a chance to de-stress. So putting stress on an animal and putting them in environments that they're not used to can actually be detrimental to their health. So we want to first quickly assess what their needs are, but then give them a chance to decompress before we address any of the needs that they have. But it all just kind of depends. We see a lot of hit animals, just lots of different things. You imagine it, we've seen it.
Oh, I bet. So I know you were saying that you educate your staff. What are some ways that you educate people that visit?
Absolutely. So we try to educate the community on ways to live in harmony and not hurt our wildlife. So lead poisoning is a huge one that we see for birds and waterfowl. So really talking to people about when you're fishing, using those lead weights and the impact that that can have on our wildlife. The same thing with hunting and using lead ammunition, because then other animals come through and they pick that up and end up with lead poisoning. So that's a huge one that we do talk about. Same thing with any type of pesticides that people are using. There are lots of ways to deter animals, whether it's mice or groundhogs, from invading the space where you don't want them without having to use those means to relocate or to remove.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned earlier about summer camps. Now, I know it doesn't feel like summer right now. Currently, it's rainy and 50s and 40 degrees, but it is coming. So tell me about summer camps.
Yeah, so we are in full summer camp prep mode right now. We are about 2 weeks out from our first week. So we start the first full week of June. Trying to accommodate schools in Livingston County. They're all getting out at different times. Some of them are already out. Some of them get out this week. So we do start that in 2 weeks. We are working currently on our beachfront and getting all of our aqua toys put in the water. So hopefully we'll have a nice enough weather that first week in June that the kids will be able to really enjoy it. Our training for our staff will happen next week in preparation for the start. But we still have openings if anybody is interested. We have lots of different options. You can come for a 2-day option, day camp, a 3-day day camp, a 5-day day camp. And then we do offer overnight camp starting at the end of July until the kids kind of go back to school at that point. But so much fun, and it's like experience that kids will never forget. It's amazing to hear their stories once they've been there and how much fun they've had and new friends. It's great to see kids come and be so shy those first couple days. And by the time they leave camp, they've made lifelong friends and they want to come back. So it's just an amazing thing to see.
That's awesome. And I did hear there's a zip line as well.
There is a zip line. So we have a high ropes course that right now is being repainted. So this weather is not helping that process at all. But we have high ropes, we have zip line, and we have a rock wall that the kids can climb on. We do things like archery, canoeing, kayaking, swimming. The aqua toys are always a huge hit, along with lots of games and learning and crafts throughout the day. So it all just depends. Every day looks a little different, but still somewhat similar.
Oh, that all sounds so fun. I hope the weather opens up for you guys.
Yep, and that's the fun part. They're out there having a blast outside, whether it's 80 degrees or whether it's 60 degrees and raining. We keep them outside as much as we can. The only thing that we would bring them inside for is if we had really inclement weather, then we move them into buildings. But if it's just a light rain or rain with no thunder or lightning, they're out in the elements and enjoying, and once again, kind of getting away from all of the electronics that our kids see nowadays.
So speaking of weather, I imagine if it's a super hot day, a lot of the animals aren't going to want to be out in the middle of the day, like while the sun is high up in the sky. So what are some of the best times that people should visit?
Yeah, so all of our animals are a little bit different. We have ones that like heat, ones that don't like heat. We have animals that are nocturnal, those that are just out and about constantly. But what I always tell everybody, if you want the best chance at seeing the most animals, we open up at 10. Come when we open up. So our keepers come in between 8 and 9 o'clock, and those animals are getting fed shortly after they come in. And believe it or not, they like to come out for their food. So if you want the best chance at seeing the most animals, it's definitely going to be during that feeding time right at the beginning of the day.
Definitely. And so are there rental spaces as well?
We do. We have 6 different lodges, can be rented out for a wide variety of uses. We see baby showers, we see wedding showers, birthday parties. We actually have a couple birthday party packages, whether it's wildlife focused or we have one that's geared towards younger kids and a high ropes course that's for the 40 inches and under crowd.
I don't think I could do that.
You couldn't do no. You
I think I might be a little bit too tall for that.
You might be a little too tall. We'd have to get you down on your knees.
Yeah.
So we do have some options there. We have pavilions that we can rent out. And once again, any rentals that happen, you get to enjoy all that we have to offer at the Nature Center. We've had a couple groups come in with really unique ways to rent our space out. So Howell High School had a wrestling tournament, and we had a school from the east side of Detroit actually come out and rent out one of our cabins for their wrestlers to stay in. So it was very unique instead of them being in a hotel.
Way better than a hotel.
Oh, yeah. They all got to be together. So instead of them running from room to room to room, they just had their own cabin that they could kind of hang out in, and it was cheaper than them being in a hotel. So lots of unique ways. We used to be called the Howell Nature and Conference Center. And I think we lost a little bit of that ability that we have with all the lodges in the back, losing the conference off of our name and our title. So really trying to get back out in the community and let them know, like, we have all of the space available. Even if you wanted to do an actual conference with the different lodges, we've got the space available that there could be breakout sessions in the back.
Well, and I just know like those kids, those wrestlers are going to remember that way more than they would some hotel.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
But so are there any like future events that are happening that people should be aware of?
Yeah, so as we go into summer beyond our camp that we have, we do community program with different aspects in mind. So things that we have coming up, follow the feeder. So once again, if you wanted to see those animals, what better way than to follow one of our keepers and watch them feed the animals, where they're going to come out and they're going to be a little bit more interactive during that time. We will also start seeing some of our fun summer programming coming out. So you may see a turtle paddle where you can come out and kayak on Pleasant Lake, which is a private lake that is part of our property. Be able to go out and do that with your family. So more family-friendly ideas. We will have some high adventure days. So where those high ropes will be open and the zip line will be open and the rock wall will be open. So all of that is listed on our website, and we encourage people to kind of go out and see what offerings we have each month.
So is the space kind of more, I'm picturing kind of like a zoo where it's very laid out and stuff, or is it very kind of hikey or more rural, woodsy?
Yeah, so the park in itself, Wild Wonders Park, is laid out very specifically. So it is accessible. It is a paved walkway. So if you have strollers or a wheelchair, you would be able to access that. It's about a half a mile long that kind of winds through the woods. So it's kind of a natural setting. There is one pretty steep hill. So I always like to throw that out there for anybody that's, may be challenged in those types of conditions. And then we do have an ambassador trail, which is an all-natural trail that people can walk. There are no wildlife animals that we take care of. You may run into some wildlife on those trails, and then the back part of our property is pretty much closed off unless you do a rental, only because we have so many kids back there on a regular basis, whether it's school groups or our camps. So trying to keep them as safe as possible, limit traffic back there, and just make sure we know who is back there and who should be back there.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And you mentioned earlier about the incubators.
Yes.
And how those were provided. What are some ways that people can either like volunteer or kind of get involved or donate or anything?
Absolutely. So I'm going to talk about the incubators a little bit more.
Sure.
Because I think it's an amazing story. So we had a staff person find an organization that would give us an incubator for $1,000. I don't know how much you know about incubators, but they cost way more than $1,000. So we had set up where people could donate through this organization so we could get a new incubator. Within 45 minutes, we hit the $1,000 mark, and we're able to get one incubator. And we were like, wow, the community is so supportive of us. That gave us one new incubator and one really old incubator that we had on site that was, time limited.
On its last legs.
So we were like, well, if the community was that great, I wonder if the organization would work with us to try and get a second one. Because ideally, 2 is kind of the number that we're always looking for. Well, we put it back out there, and it only took a day for us to get the second one. So it just goes to show how much our community supports the work that we do, and we are so incredibly thankful for that. We are completely funded in the wildlife side by the generosity of the community around us. So definitely a huge thank you and a huge shout out to everybody here in Northeast Michigan that supports the work we do.
That's awesome. So, Tina, is there anything else that we haven't talked about today that you'd like to bring up?
Back to the thanking the community. Not always is it monetary donations that we see, but also volunteerism. So whether that is someone committing to coming in for 3 hours a week and doing something specific within our wildlife park and helping out, or groups that come out from businesses that help. So we often get inquiries, can you handle a group of this or, X or Y, from anywhere from girls on the run that are fourth graders to businesses that will travel in from, the Metro Detroit area to help us out. We always try to find meaningful ways that they can help us at the Nature Center do the work that we do. For instance, on Friday, we had a planting day. We try to make the park look as beautiful as we can with plants, but that takes a lot of manpower and work. And within just a couple hours, they were able to plant probably about 15 different flower beds. I believe it was over 40 flats of flowers.
Wow.
So that is huge, and it takes a huge burden off of our very small staff that we have.
That's awesome. Where should people look to get more information?
Absolutely. So we really push people towards our website, and we do have a Facebook account. So we try to keep those probably the most up-to-date of everything that we do. So all of our activities are on there. We're looking at ways to be able to kind of showcase more of what we do, the things that we know that the public are not aware of.
Definitely. Well, Tina, this has been a lot of fun, and thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next one.